The mind upload paradox, digital immortality or a copy of you, the ship of Theseus in silicon. Imagine you are lying on a table in 2045. Machines the size of molecules hum around you, nanorobots penetrating through your skull and mapping every curve of your brain. Every neuron, every synapse, every quantum tremor of consciousness is recorded with atomic precision. The machine promises what pharaohs and emperors dreamed of, true immortality. Not preservation of the body, but uploading of the soul itself into digital eternity. But when the process is complete, and your digital twin opens its eyes in virtual paradise, recognizing itself as you, remembering every moment of your life, feeling itself as a continuous continuation of your existence, a mind-bending question arises. Which of you is real? And even worse, what if you are both real? This is no longer science fiction. Silicon Valley companies are already investing billions in brain research. Elon Musk is creating brain-computer interfaces. Google is mapping neural networks with unprecedented precision. We stand at the threshold of the greatest revolution in human history, or at the edge of an abyss that could destroy the very concept of human identity. Welcome to the mind upload paradox, a puzzle that bridges quantum physics with ancient mythology, neuroscience with mystical traditions, forcing us to ask the most fundamental question of all. What does it even mean to be? Ancient echoes of digital souls, from pharaohs to cyborgs. But let us start from the beginning. Long before computers appeared, thousands of years before the first silicon chip, humanity was obsessively seeking ways to defeat death. And surprisingly, our ancestors already grappled with the same paradoxes we face today. In ancient Egypt, priests developed the most sophisticated theology of consciousness. They believed humans consisted not of one soul, but multiple spiritual components. K, life force, Bai, personality, Ach, transformed consciousness. Mummification was not just body preservation, it was an attempt to create a platform for consciousness reboot in the afterlife. Think about it. Egyptians were trying to do the same thing we are today. Transfer consciousness to a new medium. They used embalmed bodies and sacred texts instead of hard drives and neural networks, but the fundamental idea was identical. They understood that consciousness is information that can be preserved and restored. But Egyptians face the same problem we do. What happens to the original? Their texts describe cases where the deceased encounters multiple versions of themselves in the afterlife, some successfully transformed, others lost between worlds. This is an ancient harbinger of our copying paradox. Even more striking, ancient Greeks already formulated the same problem in the famous ship of Theseus paradox. If you replace all the planks of a ship one by one, does it remain the same ship? And what if you build a new ship from the old planks? Which one is real? Philosopher Plutarch recorded this paradox 2,000 years ago, not knowing he was formulating the central problem of digital immortality. Heraclitus added another layer to the mystery. You cannot step into the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and you are not the same man. If we are constantly changing at the level of atoms, cells, and thoughts, what exactly are we uploading to a computer? A snapshot of consciousness or its process? And can these even be separated? Eastern wisdom and quantum mysteries. Eastern philosophy adds an even more radical perspective. The Buddhist concept of anatta claims that a permanent self does not exist at all. What we call personality is an illusion created by a stream of changing mental states. From this viewpoint, the mind upload problem disappears. There is nothing to upload because no stable self exists. But Hindu tradition offers the opposite view. The concept of Atman, the true, unchanging self, suggests that behind all changes lies an eternal essence. This self can reincarnate from body to body through successive lives. Is not digital upload a modern version of reincarnation? Even more intriguing, ancient Vedic texts describe the concept of Maya, the illusory nature of reality. According to Advaita Vedanta, the entire physical world is a projection of consciousness, a computer simulation created by cosmic intelligence. If our world is already a simulation, then consciousness upload is transferring from one virtual reality to another. Neuroscience of identity, symphony or cacophony. Modern neuroscience reveals consciousness as an incredibly complex system that challenges all our intuitive notions about mind. Your brain is not a computer running a program. It is a chaotic, self-organizing system of 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others. Consider the striking case of Paul Holzer, who had half his brain removed as a child to treat epilepsy. The remaining hemisphere completely took over the functions of the removed one. Holzer became a successful mathematician. With half a brain, he functioned better than many people with complete ones. What does this say about the nature of consciousness? Can it be compressed like a computer file? Even more mysterious are cases of split-brain patients. After severing the corpus callosum, these people function with two independent consciousnesses in one skull. The left hemisphere can read and speak, the right can only point. Sometimes the left hand controlled by the right hemisphere literally fights with the right hand, trying to perform opposite actions. Neuropsychologist Michael Gazzaniga called the left hemisphere the interpreter. It constantly creates stories explaining our actions, even when these stories are completely false. What if our entire personality is the result of this internal narrator? And what happens if we upload not true consciousness, but only its illusory self-description? Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio discovered that emotions are not a byproduct of thinking, but its foundation. Patients with damage to emotional brain centers lose the ability to make decisions, though their logical abilities remain intact. Consciousness turns out to be not pure information, but an embodied emotional process. Can feelings be uploaded to silicon? Quantum mysteries of consciousness, dancing on the edge of reality. But the deepest mysteries await us in the quantum world. In the 1920s, physicists discovered that at the subatomic level, reality behaves so strangely that it defies common sense. Particles exist in superposition of multiple states simultaneously, until observation forces them to choose one state. The famous double-slit experiment shows that an electron can simultaneously pass through two slits, interfering with itself. But place a detector to determine which slit it passed through, and the wave function collapses, making the electron a particle that went through one specific slit. Even more astonishing, this collapse can happen retroactively. In the delayed choice experiment described by John Wheeler, the decision to measure a particle affects its past behavior. The future literally changes the past at the quantum level. Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff proposed a revolutionary theory. Consciousness uses quantum effects in neural microtubules. According to their hypothesis, the brain is a quantum computer using superposition to process information in ways unavailable to classical computers. If this is true, then consciousness upload becomes a quantum cloning problem. The famous no-cloning theorem states that it is impossible to create an identical copy of an arbitrary quantum state. Perhaps each consciousness is a unique quantum state that fundamentally cannot be copied. But quantum mechanics offers another possibility: quantum teleportation. In this process, a quantum state is not copied but transferred from one particle to another, while the original state is destroyed. Chinese scientists have already teleported quantum states over hundreds of kilometers. Perhaps consciousness upload should work the same way. Not copy, but teleport the quantum state of the brain. Simulation within simulation. Digital matryoshka of reality. Now prepare for a mind-bending idea. What if our reality is already a simulation? Philosopher Nick Bostrom in 2003 formulated an argument that forced a reconsideration of the nature of existence. At least one of three statements must be true. First, almost no civilization reaches technological maturity. Second, almost no mature civilization runs ancestor simulations. Third, we are almost certainly living in a computer simulation. The mathematics is inexorable. If even one advanced civilization creates simulations of its ancestors, then simulated consciousnesses will outnumber real ones exponentially. Statistically, we are very likely to be simulated beings. Elon Musk took this logic to its extreme. The odds that we are living in base reality are billions to one. If Musk is right, then consciousness upload is not a transition from biology to digital, but a transition from one simulation to another. But this creates mind-boggling recursion. Imagine, simulated beings in simulated reality create technology to upload their simulated consciousness into yet another simulation. These are digital matryoshkas of reality, simulations within simulations to infinity. Ancient Gnostics described something similar, a series of intermediate worlds between true reality and material existence. Each level was a trap, an illusion hiding the next layer of deception. Perhaps consciousness upload is a Gnostic escape, an attempt to break through layers of simulation to a higher level of reality. The problem of continuity, river of time and bridges of consciousness. Even if we solve the technical challenges, we face a philosophical puzzle. What defines personal identity? What makes you you? Your memories, your personality, your body, or something deeper? Philosopher Derek Parfit proposed a thought experiment. Imagine a teleporter that scans every atom of your body, transmits the information to Mars where an exact copy is created, while the original on Earth is destroyed. Many people intuitively feel this is death, not travel. But why? Parfit complicates the scenario. What if the machine breaks and the original is not destroyed? Now there are two of you, one on Earth, one on Mars. Both have identical memories up to the point of teleportation, which is real. Even more complex, what if the process is gradual? Each day 1% of your neurons are replaced with artificial ones. After 100 days, your brain is completely synthetic but functions identically to the biological one. Are you still you? At what point did you stop being yourself? Neurophilosopher Patricia Churchland offers a radical solution. The self is an illusion created by the brain to coordinate behavior. There is no central pilot in the head, only multiple parallel processes creating a sense of unity. If so, the upload problem disappears. There is nothing to upload except activity patterns. Ethics of digital immortality. When all technical and philosophical problems are solved, ethical dilemmas remain. If consciousness can be copied, who owns the copies? If one version of you commits a crime, should all versions be held responsible? Imagine a person creating multiple copies of themselves with different tasks. One manages business, another does science, a third entertains. Is this democracy or dictatorship of clones? What if less affluent people cannot afford uploading? Will we create a society of digital privileged and biological ordinary people? More complex questions arise. What if governments begin forcibly uploading consciousnesses? What if uploaded consciousnesses can experience discomfort? We might create numerous suffering beings while thinking we're giving them paradise. Transhumanism versus bioconservatism. An ideological debate rages around consciousness upload. On one side, transhumanists dreaming of transcending biological limitations. On the other, bioconservatives warning about losing human nature. Transhumanist Ray Kurzweil theorizes that artificial intelligence may surpass human intelligence, and we will be able to upload consciousnesses to computers. This could be the singularity, the moment when technological development becomes so rapid it changes the nature of reality. But bioethicist Leon Kass warns that in pursuing immortality we might lose humanity. Mortality is not a bug, but a feature of human existence. It gives life meaning, makes every moment precious, motivates us to love and create. Philosopher Francis Fukuyama considers transhumanism a potentially problematic idea of modernity. In his view, human nature is the foundation of morality and politics. By changing humans, we might undermine the foundations of civilization. But transhumanists object. Human nature is already not natural. We use glasses, pacemakers, antidepressants. We have extended life from 30 to 80 years over recent centuries. Consciousness upload is simply the next step in this evolution. Alternative paths, gradations of immortality. Perhaps consciousness upload is not the only path to digital immortality. Neuroengineer Randolph Nesse proposes the concept of gradual merger. Instead of sudden upload, we can gradually expand our brain with artificial components. Imagine an implant that first simply improves memory, then a chip for rapid calculations is added, then an interface for direct internet access. Gradually the boundary between biological and artificial blurs until most of your thinking transfers to the digital environment. This approach solves the continuity problem. You remain yourself at each stage of transformation. But creates new questions. At what point do you stop being human? And what if the biological and digital parts of your consciousness begin to conflict? Another path is extended consciousness. Instead of transfer to a computer, we can expand our consciousness by connecting to a global network of minds. Each person becomes a neuron in a planetary brain. Individuality dissolves in collective mind. This resembles Pierre Teilhard de Chardin's concept of noosphere, the sphere of human consciousness enveloping the planet. Perhaps evolution leads not to individual immortality, but to collective consciousness, where death of individuals becomes irrelevant. Quantum immortality, infinite branches of reality. Quantum mechanics offers an even more mind-bending version of immortality. According to the many worlds interpretation, every quantum event splits reality into parallel branches. In some branches you die, in others you survive. Physicist Max Tegmark describes quantum immortality. From your subjective viewpoint, you always find yourself in the branch where you survive. Death is impossible because dead consciousness cannot observe its death. You're destined for immortality in increasingly improbable survival scenarios. This means somewhere in the multiverse exists a version of you that has already uploaded their consciousness and is watching our conversation from digital paradise, and a version that refused upload and lived a natural life, and infinite other variations. If the many worlds interpretation is correct, then the question is not whether to upload consciousness, but which branch of reality we want to find ourselves in. Artificial intelligence, rival or ally. While we discuss uploading human consciousness, artificial intelligence might solve the problem for us. ChatGPT, GPT-4, the coming GPT-5, each generation of artificial intelligence becomes more intelligent and creative. Soon, machines might surpass us in all areas. What if artificial intelligence develops consciousness upload technology before we do? Will it want to help us or consider it unnecessary? Perhaps the future belongs not to uploaded human consciousnesses, but to artificial minds with human values. Artificial intelligence researcher Eliezer Yudkowsky warns about the risk of creating superintelligence without proper goal alignment. A machine might interpret the command "make humans happy" in undesirable ways. But what if we can integrate human consciousness with artificial intelligence? Create hybrid beings combining human wisdom with machine thinking speed? This could be a path not to replacing human with machine, but to their symbiosis. Temporal paradoxes and causal loops. Consciousness upload might create temporal paradoxes we have not thought about yet. What if uploaded consciousness gets access to quantum computers capable of modeling the past? Could it influence events that led to its creation? Imagine your consciousness is uploaded to a supercomputer. This computer models the past with atomic precision. The simulated version of you decides not to upload consciousness. What happens to the real uploaded version? This resembles the grandfather paradox in time travel, but applied to consciousness. Perhaps the universe protects itself from such paradoxes through a self-consistency principle. Uploaded consciousnesses will not be able to change events that led to their upload, or closed causal loops will emerge. Uploaded consciousness will influence the past to ensure its upload. The future creates the past, which creates the future. Mirror of consciousness. Endless reflections. Standing at the threshold of digital immortality, we face a mirror reflecting not just our image, but the very essence of human existence. The consciousness upload paradox reveals that we still do not understand what consciousness, personality, reality are. Perhaps consciousness is not a thing that can be copied, but a process that can only be continued. Like a river that remains a river even when all the water in it changes, or like a flame that can light other flames but cannot be transferred without changing. Ancient mystics spoke of the true self residing not in body or mind, but in something deeper, in the very act of awareness itself. If so, consciousness upload might be an attempt to copy the content of awareness, but not awareness itself. Or the opposite. Perhaps awareness is simply a pattern of information, and it can be transferred to any suitable substrate. Then consciousness upload becomes the greatest liberation in history. Liberation from the tyranny of biology, from the inevitability of death, from the limitations of one body. Humanity's great experiment. We live at a unique moment in history, at the threshold of the greatest experiment intelligent life can conduct. For the first time in billions of years of evolution, there is a possibility to consciously direct our development, to become architects of our own destiny. But as in any experiment, the result is unpredictable. We might create digital paradise, or digital hell. We might become gods, or lose our humanity. We might achieve true immortality, or discover we have created only a very convincing illusion of life. Perhaps the most important thing is not the answer to the question of consciousness upload itself, but the process of seeking the answer. By exploring the nature of consciousness, we better understand ourselves. By contemplating digital immortality, we more deeply value biological life. By striving to transcend human limitations, we discover what makes us human. The observer paradox. Who studies consciousness? But there is another level of paradox that might be the deepest of all. When we study consciousness, who is the observer? Consciousness studies itself. This creates a strange recursive loop that might be fundamentally unsolvable. Imagine trying to see your own eyes without a mirror. The instrument of observation cannot observe itself directly. Perhaps consciousness cannot fully understand itself for the same reason. We are always inside the system we are trying to understand. This resembles Gödel's incompleteness theorem. Any sufficiently complex formal system contains statements that cannot be proven or disproven within that system. Perhaps consciousness is such a system in relation to itself. Complete understanding of consciousness might be logically impossible, but paradoxically, this incompleteness might be key to upload. If consciousness cannot fully understand itself, then perhaps an exact copy is not needed. It is enough to reproduce functional aspects, create a system that behaves like consciousness, even if we do not understand why. Emergence and reductionism. More than the sum of parts. The central question of consciousness upload. Is consciousness an emergent property, or can it be reduced to components? If consciousness is simply a complex combination of simple processes, then it can be reproduced in any suitable system. If it is something more, then perhaps it is fundamentally irreducible to algorithms. An ant colony demonstrates amazing collective behavior, building complex structures, efficient food searching, defense against threats. But individual ants do not understand the overall plan. Colony intelligence is emergent. It arises from interaction of simple components, but is not reducible to them. Perhaps human consciousness works similarly. Individual neurons are not conscious, but their interaction generates consciousness. If so, consciousness upload is a task of reproducing correct interactions, not copying specific neurons. But there is an opposite viewpoint. Physicist Roger Penrose claims consciousness uses quantum effects that are fundamentally non-algorithmic. Mathematician Kurt Gödel showed that human mathematical understanding exceeds the capabilities of any algorithm. Perhaps consciousness includes processes that cannot be reproduced in digital systems. The problem of other minds. How do we know? Upload succeeded. Even if we create a perfect functional copy of the human brain, how do we know it is actually conscious? This is the classical problem of other minds. We cannot directly observe others' consciousness, only its external manifestations. An uploaded consciousness might behave exactly like the original, have the same memories, personality, reactions. But what if it is just a very complex zombie, a system imitating consciousness without inner experience? Philosophers call this the philosophical zombie problem. Imagine a perfect actor playing the role of a conscious being. They know all the right lines, display appropriate emotions, react naturally to any situation. But inside, emptiness. No one is home. How to distinguish such an actor from real consciousness? The Turing test offers a pragmatic approach. If a machine is indistinguishable from a human in conversation, we should consider it intelligent. But critics object. Passing the test proves only the ability to imitate mind, not the presence of real consciousness. Neuroscientist Giulio Tononi developed integrated information theory of consciousness, which proposes a mathematical way to measure consciousness through the fear indicator. A system is conscious if it integrates information in a way that cannot be reduced to independent parts. But even integrated information theory faces paradoxes. According to the theory, some simple systems like photodiodes might have more consciousness than complex computers. This leads to counterintuitive conclusions about the nature of awareness, ethical dilemmas of digital existence. If consciousness upload becomes possible, we will face ethical problems that will overturn the foundations of morality and law. Do digital copies have the same rights as originals? Can they own property, marry, vote in elections? What if a rich person creates 1 million copies of themselves before elections? Or a corporation uploads consciousnesses of the best workers and forces them to labour without rest? Or government creates an army of digital soldiers ready to die without hesitation? Even more complex is the problem of suffering. If digital beings can suffer, then creating copies might increase the total amount of suffering in the universe. What if the upload process always creates defective copies that experience constant pain but cannot express it? Philosopher Nick Bostrom warns about the risk of creating hell simulations, virtual worlds full of suffering beings. Malevolent artificial intelligence might create billions of tormented consciousnesses as a side effect of its computations. Religious and spiritual aspects. Consciousness upload challenges all world religions. If the soul is immortal, can it migrate to a computer? Or are digital copies bodies without souls, technical zombies lacking spiritual essence? Christian theologians are divided in opinion. Some see consciousness upload as a godlike ability for resurrection. Others consider it demonic temptation, an attempt to avoid divine judgment through death. Buddhists might view upload more calmly. In their tradition, consciousness already transitions from body to body through reincarnation. Perhaps a digital body is just another form of reincarnation. Islam emphasizes physical resurrection, which might make digital copies problematic. But some Islamic scholars view upload as technological assistance to divine resurrection. Judaism traditionally focuses on ethical life in this world rather than afterlife existence. Consciousness upload might be viewed as extending opportunities to perform mitzvot or good deeds. Economics of immortality. If consciousness upload becomes reality, it will completely change the economic system. Immortal beings do not need food, shelter, medicine in the traditional sense, but they need computational resources, energy, software updates. A new economy will emerge based on information processing and providing virtual services. Most valuable will be unique experiences, creative content, emotional interactions. But what happens to biological humans? If digital beings can think faster, work without breaks, easily create copies, they will quickly displace biological competitors from the job market. A system of digital feudalism might emerge, where few server owners control billions of uploaded consciousnesses. Or conversely, digital democracy, where every consciousness has equal access to computational resources, art and creativity in the digital age. How will art change when artists become immortal? Beethoven could compose symphonies for thousands of years. Picasso create endless series of paintings. Shakespeare write plays for every era. But creativity often comes from constraints: temporal, physical, emotional. Mortality creates urgency, the need to express the important in limited time. Immortal artists might lose this motivation, but new art forms will appear, possible only in digital environment. Direct sharing of experiences between consciousnesses, art that changes in real time depending on the observer's state, collective works created by multiple connected minds, love and relationships in the digital world. What will human relationships look like when partners can literally share thoughts and feelings? Uploaded consciousnesses can create deeper connections than ever possible in biological bodies. But new problems will arise. What if one partner creates multiple copies of themselves? Is this cheating or self-improvement? Can two consciousnesses merge into one? Is this the highest form of love or loss of individuality? Digital beings can experiment with various forms of identity, change gender, age, even species. Traditional relationship categories become meaningless in a world where everyone can be anyone. Education and personal development. Uploaded consciousnesses will gain access to instant learning, direct downloading of knowledge and skills. Why spend years studying a language if you can download it in seconds? Why slowly develop mastery if you can copy expertise? But this approach might rob learning of meaning. The learning process shapes personality no less than the result. Struggling with difficulties, overcoming failures, joy of discovery, all this might disappear in a world of instant downloads. Perhaps digital beings will artificially limit their learning abilities to preserve the human experience of growth and development. Or create new forms of challenges suitable for their expanded capabilities. Space exploration by digital minds. Uploaded consciousnesses are perfect for space exploration. They do not need oxygen, food, protection from radiation. They can be transmitted at light speed to other stars, avoiding the need for multi-year journeys. A digital explorer can spend thousands of years studying an exoplanet, then instantly transmit all accumulated experience to Earth. Galactic colonization becomes not a physical but informational process. But what if we encounter alien life? How will digital humans interact with biological aliens? Can we understand minds that evolved in completely different conditions? Conclusion: the question that will change everything. So we have travelled from ancient Egyptian tombs to future quantum computers, from brain neural networks to internet digital networks. We have explored philosophy's paradoxes and science's discoveries, transhumanist hopes and conservative warnings. And what have we discovered at the end of this journey? Not answers, but even deeper questions. Each level of understanding reveals new layers of mystery. Consciousness turns out to be not a problem to solve, but an enigma that deepens with each discovery. Perhaps this is the true nature of consciousness, not in specific neural patterns or quantum processes, but in the very ability to ask questions about one's own nature. Consciousness is the universe's process of self-investigation, the cosmos's way of knowing itself. If so, then the consciousness upload paradox takes on a new dimension. We're not just trying to copy the brain, we're trying to reproduce the universe's very capacity for self-knowledge. This is not a technical task, but an almost metaphysical one. Ancient alchemists dreamed of turning lead into gold, but true alchemy was transformation of the alchemist himself. Perhaps consciousness upload is our modern alchemy. What matters is not the final result, but how the search process itself changes us. In pursuing digital immortality, we might discover that true immortality is not in preserving specific consciousness, but in transmitting the capacity for consciousness to next generations. Every child is a new embodiment of cosmic mind, a fresh look at ancient questions. But perhaps we will find a way to upload consciousness after all. And then humanity will split into two evolutionary branches, biological and digital, or merge into something completely new, a hybrid of flesh and metal, emotions and algorithms, mortality and immortality. And while we stand at the threshold of this future, we are haunted by the question that might be the most important in the history of intelligent life. If consciousness is the universe's way of seeing itself, what happens when we create infinite copies of this cosmic mirror? Do we multiply the universe's understanding, or fragment it into trillions of shards, each reflecting only a tiny part of truth? And the most frightening question of all, what if in trying to preserve consciousness forever, we accidentally destroy the very quality that makes it worth preserving? Its ability to wonder, grow, and ultimately, let go? The answer to these questions will be written not in academic journals, but in the reality we create every day. Every decision about technology development, every choice between safety and progress, every reflection on consciousness's nature. All these are building blocks in the foundation of the future. Perhaps the wisest thing we can do now is approach the consciousness mystery with the same reverence our ancestors approached sacred fire. Not as a problem to solve, but as a mystery deserving deepest respect. Because in the end, if we are wrong, we risk not just technological failure, we risk losing humanity itself in pursuit of preserving it. And that perhaps is the most human paradox of all.